why don't we throw to a video? Here is an individual. He was described as a war veteran, a Canadian patriot, and psst, a Nazi. No, they didn't say that part. That leaked out later. And now we have, I guess, can we call it Nazi-gate, Sheila? Can we use that? Is it a suffix or yeah, it's a suffix. Nazi-gate. This is a story going around the world, and it has profound implications. I don't think Russia could be happier than the fiasco that occurred. So just in case anyone's returning to Earth on a space shuttle and missed the story, why don't we throw to the video of
let's just set it up a little bit.
Okay.
So the man in question is a 98-year-old. They've touted him as a veteran, whom we should celebrate because he fought the Russians during World War II. Because if you are historically illiterate, like liberals tend to be, although they haven't completely erased the history of World War II, there are some people out there who still know what World War II was about and who is on what side. And if you fought against the Russians, you were on the side of the Nazis.
Exactly.
And so
Russia was an ally.
Was an ally and paid a huge price fighting on the Eastern Front, by the way, against the brutality of the Nazis. And incidentally, the Waffen SS, of whom this guy was a member. So the Waffen, the SS was sort of broken down into two divisions. One was Hitler's personal bodyguards, and the rest were the kill squads. He was a member of the kill squad. They were known as the most fanatical and brutal of all the soldiers fighting on behalf of Germany. These were the ones that were deployed to kill the resistors, the Poles, the Jews, the Roma, the Catholic conscientious objectors to the brutality. They were the ones that went out. They killed incidentally, the communists, the capitalists, they were the kill squads.
Yep.
They were almost religious in their loyalty to the Fuhrer. And this guy was trotted into the House of Commons and given a standing ovation by all parties, to the shame of all parties.
Yep.
Because, quote, he fought the Russians. And so they thought that this guy would be somebody that should be celebrated when Ukrainian Prime Minister Zelensky came to the House of Commons to get, I don't know, his monthly stipend from the Canadian government or whatever we're doing there. All that aside, he gets pushed out as someone who fought against Russians. And so everybody claps like trained seals. And now we've got an international absolute disaster on our hands. I can't wait to see what happens with the state of Israel when everybody comes out of Yom Kippur later on today. I imagine there'll be lots of horrible things said about Canada, deservedly so. But I think that's where we are on this issue. Everybody should have known better. I think some people probably did know better, Chrystia Freeland. And
Fraulein Freeland.
Fraulein Freeland, as Ezra calls her. And Karina Gould, by the way. But we'll get to her in a bit. Let's show the international disaster in real time.
Wow.
We have here in the chamber today Ukrainian Canadian world veteran from the Second World War who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98. His name is Yaroslav Hunka. And I was going to say he's in the gallery, but I think you beat me to that. But I'm very proud to say that he is from North Bay and from my riding of Nipissing-Temiskaming. He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service. Thank you.
You know what, Sheila? I just want to point out.
Wait, sorry. They thanked him for his service. His service during World War II was part of an elite, brutal kill squad where the members enjoyed steeling themselves against human suffering. Look at, he's sweeping them. He's like, wow, I thought the Mossad were going to get me 60 years ago, but here I am in the House of Commons being celebrated. Look at this. What an absolute joke of a country we are at this point. Look at, I can't even believe what I'm seeing. No, like, and you can tell, sorry, Speaker of the House, Anthony Rota, as he's reading that speech, about 20 seconds in, he starts to do the math and keeps going anyway. When he's like, oh, he fought the Russians. And then he sort of pauses and keeps going.
That's exactly the point I wanted to bring up when it comes to Anthony Rota, mentioning that he fought the Russians, and he said in World War II. So to your original point, Sheila, wait a minute. That means he was fighting against one of our allies. If you said he was fighting against the Russians in the Cold War, or when Russia went in to invade Afghanistan in 1980, well, that's a different kettle of fish. But he's given the chronology. Russia were good guys, at least until the war ended in 1945. And everyone's clapping. So did everyone in the House of Commons fail history? The other thing, Sheila, I want to get to is that surely, and I'm not sure what the protocol is, but I'm sure it exists, that you have somebody coming into the House of Commons, that person is vetted, especially when you have the Prime Minister in the House and a foreign head of state who, as we all know, is maybe the number one assassination target in the world right now.
Exactly.
And you're telling me this guy wasn't triple and quadruple vetted? And I don't believe, Sheila, that no one else knew about his baggage other than Anthony Rota. An apology is not enough. And by the way, when we hear Blackface apologize, is it going to be one of these deals that it's been a learning experience for all of us? No, not for us, for you. And also, Sheila, once upon a time, I remember in yesterdecade, it doesn't happen anymore in the last 20 years, somebody in government that was responsible for this fiasco would immediately fall on their sword. They would issue their resignation, and that was just the way it was done. But we know that blackface cabinet ministers never, ever resign for anything, and they always give a half-hearted apology. As I said earlier, it's a learning experience for all of us. So here's the deal. You're right. Internationally, this is, talk about hunka is the word, because we got a hunka amount of egg on our faces as Canadians and as for Canada. And as I said earlier, Russia couldn't be happier. Remember, Sheila, one of their objectives in invading Ukraine is what they call denazification of Ukraine. Now, maybe that's an exaggeration. There's, Russia, there's Nazis hiding under every Ukrainian rock, or not. However, when Canada brings into the House of Commons a bona fide Nazi to honor him with a standing ovation of every party. Russia is, I'll tell you what I would do if I'm Putin. I would go, you see, Nazis everywhere. This is what's emboldening us to invade Ukraine. This is an absolute disgrace. It's crazy, Sheila. The India fiasco, the current India fiasco, that put Chinese electoral interference so far on the back burner you couldn't even see the steam anymore. Now, India fiasco has been eclipsed by this. I'm going to call it Nazigate. And I don't know the way out of this mess for the government, but it begins with resignations. That's how we start to unravel this, Sheila, not just an apology. And by the way, Sheila, why is it the apologies I've seen so far, they don't mention Hunka's name? It's kind of, well, there was some guy that was in the house. Yeah,
Did a
a Nazi, right? His name is Hunka. Why, assuming that's his real name, why don't they even have the transparency to name the individual in question? Because just 48 hours ago, everybody was giving him a standing ovation.
The Russians really are taking this as a propaganda win.
Oh, yeah.
Completely. They're saying it's outrageous that a Ukrainian man who served in one of Adolf Hitler's Waffen SS units was presented to Canada's parliament last week as a hero. They're not wrong, but this is a huge propaganda win for the Russians. There's not a genocide air that Justin Trudeau won't cozy up to. Have you noticed that? Like, between China and actual Nazis, like, think about how few members of the Waffen SS are still alive. And like I said during the morning staff call, this guy should have ended up strangled on an Argentinian beach 60 years ago, and it should have been labeled a stroke. But think about how few of them left living there are. And somehow Justin Trudeau and his people managed to find one and trot him out in front of the parliament. But this is the same government that called truckers crypto-Nazis.
Yep.
Honk honk was a dog whistle for the Nazis, thanks to Yarasak saying that. Another international embarrassment, by the way.
Yep.
That if you are a vaccine skeptic, if you're like, yeah, but I don't believe in vaccine passports, you're a Nazi. If you're a member of the men's drinking club, the Proud Boys, you're a Nazi on a terrorist watch list. But somehow a member of one of Hitler's kill squads ends up in the House of Commons, and everyone's like, he's a hero. He fought the Germans. Imagine hating he fought the Russians. Imagine hating the Russians so much that you're siding with the Nazis, because that's what just happened in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
Once again, Justin Trudeau and his Liberals have made Canada the international laughingstock, this time by bringing a member of the Waffen SS Nazi death squad to Canada to give him a standing ovation in the House of Commons, to call on the man responsible, Anthony Rota, the Speaker of the House of Commons, to resign or be fired. Please visit firerota.com.